Hello and welcome to the Talking Fever. As someone who's mostly kept to themselves, my deepest yearning has always been to express the thoughts, feelings, and ideas trapped in my head in order to facilitate real human connection. Through the Talking Fever, a somewhat diary-style podcast, I simply talk about what it's like to be human. I'm a real person, not a teacher, not a counselor, not a healer, or what have you. Just a person addressing and experiencing these topics in real time, sharing stories of my own personal growth even while I'm still going through it. Together, we explore the emotional body, the mental body, the inside of ourselves, and what lies beyond us. Together, we embrace the call of our truest nature and walk the path that leads us to the home within ourselves. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Talking Fever. Let me tell you, getting to a place internally where I could acknowledge the behaviors I practice that negatively affect others or myself has been hard. And being able to do that really without sinking into a hole of despair and self-loathing, even harder. Really, it feels more like a checkpoint in a long, arduous journey. Though I've come to a point in this conscious evolution of self where I've realized that happiness, or rather being happy every day, living in this sparkly, sunshine-filled vision of love and smiles, isn't the meaning of life. It isn't the ultimate goal to achieve, or at least it isn't to me. Not anymore. Now, of course, we all want happiness. I want happiness. But I don't believe that happiness is something far off in the future, only to be acquired once you achieve certain things, certain positions, relationships, statuses, or living situations. Not that these things can't bring you joy, entertainment, contentment, or make you feel fulfilled, but they are just things at the end of the day. Things you won't take with you to the other side, whatever that looks like. I've come to find for myself that the meaning and purpose to life is to learn how to survive, how to keep living. And that includes especially our own minds, how to survive ourselves, how to live in harmony with our true natures, with our own timeline, with what really feels right. It's learning how to live with yourself. Happiness, we may forget, is a feeling, not a place, not an object, not a title, just a feeling, just a word rather, to describe this good, light, easy breezy feeling. A feeling we can feel at any time, even in a moment on our saddest days. Just one joke that breaks the dark barrier around ourselves. Just one kind act that leaves us with a tingly, warm feeling. Or the excitement of finally getting something you wanted. But it is just a feeling. Therefore, it is not constant and realistically is unsustainable. We'd all like to reach a point of general daily peace, contentment, and ease, though, right? To be happy with our lives as they are. I know I would. And I still strive for that. Even though right now, as I'm recording this, things feel very uncertain. I mean, they don't just feel uncertain, they are uncertain. but we have to keep on living. And we have to keep on living with ourselves, which may feel impossible sometimes, really feel painful. And it's hard. It's hard to do any of this. It's hard to do this journey, this exploration, into healing. I mean, it's not even much of a journey as it is just unpacking all of the shit that you and your family, your community, your peers, outsiders, your societies, your countries, your world has put on your shoulders, and tried to make you into something to fit into the world, into the family, into the community, into your race or your gender or your type, your category. So you may come to this point of realization, if you're like me, that who you are, who you thought you were, really isn't. Who you're supposed to be isn't really who you are or what you want to be. Maybe you don't even know who you are or what you want to be, but right now feels wrong. And you may not be able to explain that, and that's okay. That's something I struggled with, is wanting to know everything and understand everything. It's just not going to happen. So if you're like me, I'm sorry, but it's just not. But that's okay. It might not feel okay. It took time for me to feel like it is okay and to accept that I won't understand everything, especially recently. I've come to see a lot of myself recently, and what triggered me to start writing about this topic in particular was how I compare myself to other people. And I'm sure we all do it. We're all human. And I get in a bad habit of feeling alone in things. Like I'm the only one that feels any type of pain. But I was comparing myself to someone that is really genuinely good. And I'm like, what the fuck? How can you be that good? Someone so good that I feel horrible compared to them. The key word being compared. When they speak, they just seem so perfect, Everything is good, everything is kind, everything is understanding, everything is grateful. So perfect, right? And I used to tell myself, like, well, I don't know what's going on with them, right? And they could be feeling things that I don't know. And that's still true, of course. But I approached it in a way that was like, they're probably not that happy. They're not actually that perfect. And I use that to make myself feel better about not feeling as good as them, not feeling deserving of them, from comparing myself to them. But that really didn't help me. And that definitely got in the way of the relationship that I had with this person. And it's something that I face today because I saw pictures of them, and once again, they looked happy and glowing and growing and grateful and just always on this beautiful, magical journey of self-discovery. And it's so perfect and magical. I was just like, ugh, I hate it. And then I felt like shit because I wasn't there. Not that I wasn't there, but I wasn't the same, you know? I couldn't celebrate in the way that they could. Because I was the bad guy, technically, in this situation, you know? They were the hero and I was the evil witch. Or at least that's what I'm telling myself. And that's how I really felt on the inside, you know? But I'm not evil. I know that. I'm not perfect. And neither are they. I also know that. But when I would tell myself that they're not perfect, it would be to soothe my ego. You know, it would be to soothe how I felt about being the bad guy. But I know I wasn't the bad guy intentionally. And maybe I really wasn't even the bad guy. Maybe I'm taking this all too seriously. I don't know. But I felt horrible. And I still struggle loosely. We'll use that word loosely, lightly, even struggle. I did. I used to. I mean, after I stopped speaking with this person, it was really hard. And there was a lot of despair. I felt so lost and it was just terrible. Like, I've gone through a number of depressions and it's gone pretty deep and dark and dangerous, we'll say. But this was just empty, just so empty after this situation ended. And I compared myself to them. You know, I was like, I'm horrible. I'm a monster. You know, like, I felt horrible for wanting what I wanted and not wanting what I wanted and not knowing what I wanted and not being them. I felt horrible for not being them and not understanding how they could be them because I wasn't them, because I'm a different person. And I beat myself up so much for being a different person and having different experiences, a different life that ultimately has impacted me a lot differently. And that is also something that I've tried to avoid, which is, you know, comparing our lives and saying, oh, well, they had it easier or they had more support or whatever, because that's not necessarily true. And then because that's not necessarily true, I'm like, well, shit, they are better than me because they handled it all way better than me. And I'm just lost and I'm sad and I'm broken and I'm undeserving and I'm terrible and I suck. I'm the worst. But that thinking and feeling does not get you anywhere. But I understand how hard it is to get out of that because I was there and I've been there many times. And not even as many times as other people. But I think something that helps me get out of it and has gotten me to this point now, and being able to have this feeling, being able to start comparing myself to them again, but then come back in the same hour, very fast, to say, it's okay. You don't have to compare yourself. Things happen as they are. They're learning and growing in their way. As much as they were a catalyst of change for you, you are a catalyst of change for them. And maybe you were a catalyst of change that made their life all super bright and sparkly and amazing right away. And like, no, they're just glowing and fabulous. And they're going to have a beautiful, amazing, perfect life. And fuck, dude, you're not. Or, like, you're not right away, you know? And fucking who cares? Fucking who cares if they're more whatever than you? I mean, how do you know that? And why do you care anymore? Why do you care? Why do you need to care? Why do you need to make that into something that's wrong with you? You know, because you're not them, you're not there. You don't know. You know? I don't know. I don't. And I'm not going to say that I don't know in a way that will make me think, well, maybe they do feel terrible and they're sad, so I can feel a little bit better because they're still sad and I'm still sad, so I'm not so pathetic. But we shouldn't think like that. I shouldn't think like that. And that's a realization that I had. And that is the value in these moments, which happen over and over and over and over and over and over again. Yes, they do. Jesus Christ. But that is the value. If I had not seen pictures of this person and their beautiful, wonderful post and recognized how this moment that they posted about, I could have been there, I could have shared it with them. But it's so much more impactful and important that I wasn't there. It was that way for them, probably, and it is that way for me too, because I know if I was there where I would be in my mind right now. I'm pretty sure, at least. Of course, I don't know, but I can assume, and I wouldn't have really appreciated it, which is why things had to end and we had to part ways, which is the right decision, which is the right thing that I did in the end. So I can't beat myself up too hard because I did do the right thing in the end for both of us, even though it was painful. It was very painful for me, and I'm sure it was painful for them as well. And I don't know how painful, you know? They looked perfect and good, and we did talk recently, and they said they were good and great and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know, really. And maybe they wouldn't tell me. They have no reason to. Or maybe they really are. Maybe they're really good. Maybe they're really happy. Maybe they're like, you know what, thank God. But I can't hold on to that. I can't base my own feelings off of how I assume they're feeling. If they're feeling great and like I'm better off, I can't feel terrible about that. I can't beat myself up for that. I can be like, oh, they are better off and I'm the worst. Because I've been doing that. And I don't want to keep doing that. I'm not going to. I might a little bit. But that's only residual. It will end. But then I also can't base feeling good off of them still feeling bad. Feeling good about myself because they miss me, or they hurt over me. So I feel valuable, like, oh, well, I'm something to be hurt over. Go me, That's not okay either. And so I have to step away from basing my worth, my feeling, my path, my purpose, me, off of how other people feel. Anybody. People I care about, people I don't care about. I just can't do it. And so that is why I started writing this. And then I kind of went off on a tangent, which you can probably tell because there's lots of pauses. And it's not so poetic and all fancy. But yeah, acknowledging an upsetting truth and not hating yourself for it. Tonight, I acknowledge that I still have, do compare myself to other people. Not everybody, but people close to me, yes. People I am intimate with and have a romantic connection with, yes. And that's something I did with my first boyfriend, too. Back in high school. I put him on such a high pedestal and then I just beat myself up and I felt terrible. And then because I felt so terrible and I felt so rejected, I felt so lesser, things just went south so fast. And then it happened again. For a number of reasons on top of that. But I saw that behavior again. And this time, when I finally acknowledged what was right for me and what was right for them and what was fair to both of us, I did the right thing. And it was painful. It was so painful. And I'm still dealing with it. It still comes up. I still hurt because this was a really great person. And when I think about how great of a person they are, I get sad because I compare myself automatically and I'm like, wow, they were such a great person. And I was not. And I am not. And that's something for me to deal with. But I don't hate myself for it. I don't hate myself for the mistakes that I made in the past, in this past relationship, in relationships before that. I don't hate myself for not being him, for not being ready, for not wanting the same things, for having to do what I needed to. And in the end, right, the end in quotations, everything is turning out for the better. I feel that. I know that. And at the beginning of the end, it was hard to trust that, especially feeling so much despair and uncertainty and loss, and just in utter chaos of like, what is going on? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Who am I? But I will say that I nevertheless trusted that something good was going to come out of this. I had to, because it had to. I refused. I was like, there is no way. There is no way. Absolutely no way that this is all just going to be some like weird, fucked up shit from the universe that I'm just like ruining my life right now. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I was right. It was not that way. I slowly started to really build this stronger, we'll say, foundation within myself that I am still building today. And I started practicing these things of letting it be okay that I am not them. I'm not anybody else but me. Letting it be okay that I am where I am and that I do not have this perfect, amazing job or even a place of my own right now, and I don't have this perfect, amazing relationship, and I'm not this perfect, amazing person. And I'm not the greatest friend ever. Not really, not all the time. Not really. I've been a bad friend. Well, maybe not bad, but I haven't always been the most available. And I've shut out a lot of things. I've self-isolated a lot. I saw so much in myself that was holding me back from being who I really am. Things that I've always wanted to be. Things that I've always not wanted to be, but wanted to let out, because they're already in me. I am already this way secretly. But because of fear, I hide these things. I'm sure you know. I think we all do it to some extent, or at least have. I don't know who you are or where you are, and maybe you're in perfect alignment and everything is peachy. That's great. I'm happy for you. But I am not. I'm working on it though. I'm really trying hard. I have been for years. For years. And after all of this, after this situation, this relationship, after seeing myself in a whole new way, after going through this intense feeling of just like loss, empty, so gone, don't exist, what is happening? I'm here now in a new way. Not everything has changed. It's only been about 2 months, but it's the fastest things have ever changed. And it just keeps getting faster. it gets easier. I feel stronger and better with time. And I can reflect on how all of these instances, all these experiences, all of the people, all of the jobs, even, like everything that I've experienced have somehow built me into this person and have taught me so much and just have led me down this path of learning that is so specific and really caters to everything that I need to learn, everything I need to overcome, everything that is important in order to live a life that is balanced and fulfilling and not so chaotic. And that doesn't mean, like I said before, that's always going to be happy, because life's just never going to end. I mean, you can't guarantee that. You can't stamp happiness on the second half of your life or whatever. I mean, there's just too many things in the world. There's too many people. Everything is interacting with everything. And so I think learning how to live with that, how to adapt, how to stay afloat, how to stay sane, how to stay okay with yourself, how to still love yourself, how to still forgive yourself and others, to be able to do that for other people as well is important. And that's what you need in life, you know? You can be happy in any moment, in the biggest moments, in the smallest moments. You could be miserable on your wedding day, or terrified and resentful of a child that you have. I mean, really, things that we think are going to be so happy and gorgeous and beautiful and be such magical moments in our lives, which of course, absolutely they can and are, or they can be and are and whatever. But a lot of that depends on you. Not the event, not the circumstance, not the person you're involved with. But it's you. It's what's inside of you. It's what you're coming to that situation with, If you're terrified, if you're anxious, well, you're not going to enjoy yourself. You're just not. And if you're pushing yourself to do things you really don't want to be places you don't want to be involved in things you don't want to be involved in, thinking that they'll make you happy, well, are they? That's a good question. So it's not about being happy. Not that that's not something you should want or strive for, but it's just unrealistic being happy every day. And what's more important isn't to make everything become what you think is happy, but if happiness is your goal, learn how to be happy with yourself. And if that feels like too big of a task, like, oh, how could you possibly be happy with yourself all the time? Well, how can you expect to be happy with your life all the time? You know, with your outside world, because that's what we think about when we think about happiness. Now, love, of course, love from your family, from your friends, from your partner, whatever. That's generally the super ultimate goal. That's what we want to feel. So we really just care to feel. Everything else doesn't really matter. Really, truthfully, it doesn't. You just want to be loved. You want to love something, somebody, people, too. You know, you want it to be reciprocated. But we have to be strong enough to keep surviving and believing that even when we're not happy, it's okay. It's still okay to be alive. It's still okay to exist. You're not a failure because you don't have everything you want or you thought you wanted. You know, you're not something that can just be thrown away and forgotten about because you didn't do everything exactly right, step by step, as you should have, in quotes. Should have. Should is a terrible word. We should just say. So, when you are in places or situations where you're not necessarily happy, you know, you could want more, you could do better, whatever you want to say. I think it's important to learn to be okay with it, because I don't know if you, or rather I know if I had not accepted that I don't have everything I want right now, I'm not this other person who has everything I think I want, you know, that I'm trash, that I'm garbage, that I just shouldn't exist, you know? I have to accept that it's okay to be here where I am right now without comparing to other people. And that goes both ways, without comparing myself to people who have more, right? Who have their own place, who have their job, who are in their field or whatever, and they did the thing that they went to college for, and they're on their way, and they're doing great, and they're studying, and they're happy, and they're praying, and they're doing, and they're working out, and they're hot, and whatever, you know? And they're a good person, and they help old ladies cross the street. I mean, really. But also not to compare myself to like, oh, well, other people are doing worse than me, so I'm fine, right? Other people, like, they didn't even go to college, or, you know, they just play video games all day. They don't know what they want. They're just, like, bored out of their minds. They're just brain dead or whatever, right? Because I was there. I absolutely felt brain dead, just like, in my brain. And I hated it. I hated it. It does not feel good. And I'm coming out of that in a lot of ways. I haven't been there necessarily in a while, but like I'm really coming out of it now. I just have to be able to live as I am outside of anybody and anything else. No comparison. No comparison at all. And that's very hard to do. It's very, very hard to do. But that's what we're here for. We're here to do the hard things. We're here to survive. Survive ourselves, survive life, survive nature, survive the harshness of life. Because it is harsh. I mean, that's not an excuse for horrible things to happen, but they still do anyways, don't they? And we still feel horrible about things. We lose things. We lose ourselves. We lose people. Sometimes we lose, you know? And it's not really losing, if you think about it. It's rather learning. If you survive it, learn, right? That's what animals do. They don't die. They don't do that shit again. That's true. But also that doesn't mean like give in to your wacky trauma survival habits. We don't want that. You know, this whole thing is very fine, balanced process. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of time to figure out. Still figuring it out. Finding balance is really hard, but balance is key. Balance is literally the key to like everything. That's just how it is, unfortunately, and it's very difficult, at least for me, because I'm like, woo, all over the place. But also that's part of like how we function best. It's interesting. It's a whole thing. We'll explore that more. But this is very long. So hopefully this second majority made sense. Hopefully it made sense and you got something out of it, and it wasn't just me rambling. But it might have just been me rambling. But anyway, if you find yourself beating yourself up about something, it is important to acknowledge, yes, that you have flaws and you do things wrong and you hurt people. You can hurt people. You can also hurt yourself. And it's very hard to find a balance, keyword, between allowing yourself to acknowledge those flaws, those pains, and then not sink into a deep, dark hole of depression and hatred and self-loathing and despair. It's really hard. And it takes practice. It takes time and even repetition sometimes. It's a tough journey, but it is worth it. And it is valuable. And it's important. Because I don't think any of us want to stay the same forever. I know I don't. That'd be terrible. I don't think anybody wants that. I definitely don't. I mean, really. What would that do? That would do nothing. It would do absolutely nothing. Where would it take you? It would take you nowhere. You want to stay the same, then you will stay the same in everything. No matter what you have, what you get, where you go. If you stay the same on the inside, everything else will feel the same. So, that's just something to consider. Any hoodle. I hope that if you're going through something, if you're acknowledging a truth that is upsetting, because truths are upsetting and hard to acknowledge. But at some point, you have to. And if you are, it's okay. It's okay that you have this flaw. It's okay that you made those mistakes. And it's okay not to be perfect. I think we all want to be really perfect, especially now. Now it's really hard to allow yourself to not be perfect. But none of us are, and that is okay. You don't have to hate yourself for it. And with practice, you will be able to acknowledge these things and then have an action plan or be changed in some way. Things will change. Just with the intention, things will change. So, that is all for me for now. I really can't think of anything else. This is crazy long, so thank you for listening. I hope this wasn't too all over the place. And I will speak to you in the next one. Goodbye.